You're listening to By the Way, a podcast about contemporary art news where I present stories to my co-host that he has likely not heard about. My name is Eric. I'm an artist and an art professional here in Stockholm.
And my name is Ando, and I am a podcaster, an artist, and a general layabout, and I'm based here in Copenhagen.
All right. And today we're going to talk all about my selfie. So let's get started. All right, so on this episode of By the Way, we're going to do it a little bit different. Past ones, it's been me typically telling you news stories that you didn't know anything about. This one in particular, I had to send you a video. This one is a very visual thing in which I don't think I could properly describe well enough.
So I guess the viewer, if they haven't seen it, it would behoove them to also watch the video, which we've put links up on the show notes page, on our various media, etc., before listening to the rest of this, right?
Yeah, they can definitely listen to us and then watch it after and then listen again. That's only going to help our stats, right? So,
and then tell all their near friends, lovers, and enemies.
No, this one is actually, I think, one of those, as much as some of the other topics that we've talked about, maybe more talk bait, if you can say that. There's clickbait. This might be a bit more talk bait.
Well, I just watched it, so it's fresh in my mind.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of bitching and moaning about stuff in this one.
Indeed.
All right. So actually, meaning that you just watched it, do you want to set it up or do you want me to set this up?
Yeah, I can set this up actually for the first time, switching the tables here. So the video I just watched is about two different, they call themselves museums. I'd probably call them exhibition spaces, which seem to have, they're experiential, they're tactile, and they are made with a very express focus to be able to take bitchin' selfies in them. They're colorful. They use a lot of design elements, a lot of lighting, and you can make duck lip faces everywhere and just get some like bait motherfucking Instagram pictures out of them. Right? I mean, isn't that basically what it's about?
Yeah, for sure. They are. The term that I read, and I came across this first in Wired magazine actually. Is made for Instagram exhibits. Right. And which there's been a lot of talk about. If you have a show now or talk to curators, they are aware of the need, or not the need, but the advantage of having somewhere where motherfuckers can take selfies and share it in order to promote, to try to goad people into promoting the show for them, essentially. Exactly. So let me just give the listeners a bit of detail, even though hopefully they've already watched the video. If they haven't, I'll just add a few little things that you haven't. You described it, but so some of the details in this particular video, there's the Museum of Ice Cream, and then a place called the Color Factory in this video. That's about 6 minutes long, I think it was. These two exhibition spaces are highly social media friendly, and they're actually choosing work, where they're installed, how they're installed, the lighting, and the way that you move throughout the space fundamentally for how it will be captured on like a smartphone and shared via social media. And then they're very highly interactive and in my mind kind of naive. Does that kind of describe it pretty well in your mind after seeing it?
Yeah, I mean, you do have to see it because it is they are actually kind of amazing in one sense. Like the design, they look huge. There's a lot of space as far as I can tell with the video. And they look extremely expensive.
They're very polished.
Yeah, this isn't no joke. Like they've really put a lot of effort into this. One of them had a huge ballroom, like the little kids' ballroom. So you jump into a pile of plastic balls, which looked like it was several hundred square feet. It was quite large.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I should just jump into this, but I have a lot of feelings about this, so I'm chomping at the bit here.
Yeah, go for it if you want, and then I can add things along the way and, give you my opinion because I have them as well, but I've been exposed to this a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that really fucking pisses me off with this shit. All right, so look, I am a big fan of interactive exhibitions. I really like exhibitions which engage you on a physical level, and you can touch, you can move, you can do all sorts of stuff. You can roll around, you can take a goddamn nap in. I'm for all those things. The only thing you can't do, to shout back our old project, is change a baby's diaper on a Donald Judd. That's back in episode, a couple episodes ago. But so what they've done is taken this desire, which I am all for, and completely drained it of any sort of natural joy or childhood delight, and been like, nope, this is for adults to act like dum-dums and just put pictures on social media. So to me, the fact that is the point. Instead of having a physical exhibition, which is a pleasure to interact with, it's not about that. It's more about how will this look when you take the physicality out of it again.
Yeah, that's the part also that, I think it's me as an artist or you as an artist or people that are tuned to the art world or appreciate, the provoking side of art, is this just absolutely is all surface.
It's vapid.
It is the Oompa Loompa girl that you see that has a spray tan. It's the Jersey Shore of the art world that might be packaged and wrapped beautifully, and then you open it up and you're like, oh great, it's a pile of shit. There's just nothing there beyond the surface, and I think that it's very offensive to me because this is going to get more traction, more viewers, more funding, and more corporate sponsors, because you see that in one of the exhibitions. It's actually sponsored by Alaska Airlines. These are the things that are going to get more funding, more ad revenue.
It's entirely uncontroversial in any way, shape, or form.
It's so easy peasy. And this is not the part of the art world that needs the assistance, the help, the audience. This is the stuff that, Macy's will put together.
It does actually look like an ad. The one with the I mistook. Like, I thought the one that was sponsored by American Airlines was not an art exhibition. I thought they used that footage from, an ad.
High school prom.
Yeah, something like that. And the fucking thing is, okay, again, I really, really enjoy these sort of exhibitions, and I'm really sad because, like, for example, here in Copenhagen last year, there was an artist named Trine Bosen who made this total installation at Nikolai Kunsthal, which was essentially aimed for children. And it was awesome. It was super fun because you could walk in there and be like, yeah, I'm a child again, and move around huge foam blocks and roll around and touch.
I remember that. That was a great exhibition. That was awesome. So fun.
And it's essentially the same thing. It was also very Instagram friendly. But no one went around being like, yeah, motherfucker, that's the point of this,
Yeah, and they didn't change the lighting from, blue lighting to yellow lighting, or make sure that the direction of the lights were in such a way so people could stand there and take photos together.
Right, and it comes back to the fact that, like, maybe these are tactics which are important to think about when you are doing exhibition design. That is undiscountable, that you have to consider this. But to just flip it on its head and be like, this is what we're going for, seems essentially like a money grab.
And there's no content. That's the thing, is there's no content, I think.
Right, and they actually said that in the video. They were like, it has to have a meaning, and then they said not a word more about that.
Well, the meaning is to get followers, get user engagement. That's the meaning. You said something very childlike when you were at Nikolai Kunsthal, that it kind of made you feel like a child again. And I had the conversation. I showed this to my wife as well and said, what's your reaction? And sure enough, she said exactly the same thing that I did. This is essentially, it's a children's museum for adults.
Yeah.
And children are not allowed.
Right, because they're not taking selfies. They actually want to touch things and play with them.
Absolutely. They're actually the ones that are playing in that ball pit the way that the ball pit is intended. It's the adults that are like, I don't want to embarrass myself and play like a kid in the ball pit, but I want to look like I'm in a ball pit and get a photo of me looking as if I'm so youthful and young and carefree.
And it's so devastating in the video, too, because a lot of the footage is actual people taking the selfies and like trying different faces on and, posing. And there's really nothing as depressing as watching a goddamn adult make duck lip faces from various angles and lightings into their phone. Like, it's just, for whatever reason, call me a Luddite, I feel like this is taking away from the experience. It also relates to something I read recently, which was that if you there was a study done that if there's a smartphone in the room, people have a tendency to be cognitively less sharp. Just in the room, not even looking at it. But if your phone's there and it's there, it can take concentration away from whatever it is you're trying to be doing.
Mm.
And that to me is shocking, because I ride the fence on the technology. I think there's a lot of really powerful, amazing tools that have come out of this ability to have a computer in your pocket on this level.
Well, I mean, you and me, or you and I, sorry, we're actually sitting here. I'm using my iPhone video chatting with you so that we can do this. There's no way we could execute this podcast, which is about art and contemporary art and culture and politics, without the basic parts of these new technologies.
It's tremendous. Absolutely. Yeah. And so it's really more of a question not about the technology, but about social media and human behavior on social media, right?
Yeah.
And the question is whether there will be some blowback. The question is, are we getting dumber, or is this just the thing that happens when new technology comes out? I mean, motherfuckers flipped out when VCRs were invented too. So the question is, like, is this real or not? But it does seem to me, to some degree, like it's an excellent tool to skitter across the surface of anything without ever stopping to look at it.
Yeah.
Or try to engage with it on a different level.
So a few days ago, I read a story that was very interesting, tangential to this, but just not quite enough for us to talk about at the moment, that I think you'll definitely have a strong opinion on. It's about IR. So that's the virtual reality type of element that Pokemon Go,
the interactive or quasi virtual world. So you sit there on your phone, the video camera part is on, it sees the world around you, and via geolocation can place an artificial object in your camera's viewfinder, essentially. And Snapchat is actually the one doing this. It worked with Jeff Koons to do art installations and place objects in virtual space. And now they're hiring, or what they do, they did an open call for like graphic designers and artists to submit work to this project. So I mean, I'm for artists exploring new technology as a way to. I'm not for Jeff Koons, but I'm for artists exploring new technology in terms of finding out what it's capable of for delivering a message or creating art or whatever definition of art we go ahead and use. But I don't feel that these museums were doing that. They were just trying to get The Walking Dead to come in and take pictures, so in that case, that's using a tool to create an artwork, whereas the other one is actually just creating a space which looks good in a selfie.
True. Okay. I was,
what I mean? Like, I really like digital technology.
I wasn't in agreement with you on that. I was kind of thinking that this Snapchat version using Jeff Koons and stuff was also just another cheap ploy to get people to interact on a very superficial level with what they think is art.
Oh yeah, I'm not. I skittered right over the Snapchat part of that. I don't really think, I don't trust their motives in any sort of way towards the service of art. It's more just the idea of using the technology to create something. So in that specific
the technology
case,
part,
go fuck yourself. But in general, I'm for that.
Yeah, and that was actually funny. Because they mention in the article that Snapchat went public as a stock recently and has been dropping. Their stock prices have been dropping, and they speculated that the reason that they're introducing this with somebody like Jeff Koons and trying to do this open call is a cheap ploy to actually give Snapchat's investors something to get excited about and to hopefully raise the IPO. So,
well, it's very, very, very rare that a company acts selflessly towards the arts, right? I mean, it does happen, but it's rare.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think we covered it. I'm not worked into a lather anymore. But I mean, the weird thing is, I do actually want to go see, because one of them I saw was in San Francisco, which, you know, typical. But I will actually maybe go see the Color Room. Was it called the Color Room?
No, I think the one in San Francisco was the Museum of Ice Cream.
Okay. I might go see that because, again, I'll leave my goddamn phone in my pocket, and maybe it'll be nice as an interactive exhibit. And if anything, it'll help feed my camel hump of hate, of misanthropy, to watch all these donkeys take selfies there.
You're so transgressive.
But it's probably like $25 to get in. I can only imagine something like this is going to cost a pretty substantial little chunk.
You know, I do recall seeing the prices. I don't have them off the top of my head, but I do recall one of the prices being $18. So that might have been for the Color Factory, which I believe is in hipster Williamsburg or Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. And then, the Museum of Ice Cream, which is in the San Francisco Bay Area. Yeah,
it's really interesting that they don't have one of these in Cincinnati, Ohio. I wonder why that is.
Huh. I just don't know why.
Yeah.
Whenever I think of Cincinnati, I think of Cheetos, and so maybe that's why.
Well, then they could have the interactive Cheetos museum, maybe.
I don't know.
Cheetos.
I just think of Chester the cheetah coming from Cincinnati.
Does he?
I don't know, but he sure should.
All right, let's wrap it up.
All right.
Do you have any final thoughts on this? Do you want to chime in?
Just the final thoughts. I really just hope that this trend of exhibitions doesn't become so enticing for legitimate institutions to get on.
Right.
I think the strategies that they're using, there are some valuable strategies when it comes to exploiting their online presence that a lot of curmudgeon-y type of institutions could use. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And like you had said about exhibition design, I don't think that's a bad thing at all. But as long as they don't hollow out the exhibition for the sake of superficial selfies,
right?
I think this could be a positive thing.
Well, there's definitely a gaping hole in their business plan, which may or may not be a problem, which is that once you go and do that, you will never go back unless something very significant changes. So you will have to constantly get new first-time visitors.
That's very true. It could be a 24, 36 month business. After that, you've drained all your immediate, Huffington Post articles and all of your, social media.
Right. If you don't come with something new, it's over. That's it.
Yeah, because they're living at the life cycle of the internet's speed.
Right. And like we said earlier, it looks expensive to make that place. It was very,
I don't think they could probably innovate fast enough, you're right, to keep up with the trends.
Right. I mean, because in which case they'd have to make some sort of more museum setup where they have 4 to 8 shows a year, invite artists in, curate the whole shebang, which it didn't seem like was the plan.
No, and that's where that children's museum type of thing comes back into mind. Is children's museums tend to be very stable and familiar because they're expensive to build these really beautiful and great interactive children's museums. The exhibitions don't change that often, and there's a reason for that. And I think you're right. I think that these will probably be gone in a few years because of that reason alone.
Or this podcast, which will remain online forever, will go down as infamy as 2 goddamn idiots meowing about the future and then getting run over by it.
Oh, we'll just delete it like Trump's Twitter accounts.
That's right.
I mean,
that's the magic of the internet. All right. Well, thank you so much for listening to this episode of By the Way. We really appreciate it. If you had a moment, we'd love it if you'd check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, etc. And we'd especially love it if you'd engage with us, write us comments, send us stories, whatever you see fit. This is a discussion. This is not a static object. And since we're on the topic of cheap marketing ploys, why don't you jump on over to iTunes and give us a rating, tell your friends, put it on your social media, whatever. Help us spread the word. Take a duck face selfie in front of you listening to this podcast.
Download it on your grandma's iPhone.
Yeah. So, any help getting it out there is very much appreciated.
Yeah, thank you guys very much for listening, and we'll see you guys in about 2 weeks.
Yep, catch you next time.